had to turn down because I wouldn't do certain things that most people would find unbelievable, but maybe not anymore.
My name is Russell de la Pena, and I am very excited to have someone who I've worked with, but also someone I consider a friend, who has been from Hollywood to car crashes to success online and offline, and some just a wild, wild journey in his entrepreneurial journey. And so I'm excited. Thank you so much, Matt Farnsworth, for taking out time of your busy schedule to join me here, and just really for small business owners who maybe are coaches, consultants, course creators, experts, people who would love to do a data dump and monetize their expertise, but just don't know how to do it, where to start, maybe are fighting those kind of internal demons as to whether they can or should start. That's what this talk today is really all about. And I know none other than Matt Farnsworth, being an expert in all of these things and someone who I admire and have just watched do some amazing things. So again, welcome, Matt, to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Russell. Good to be here, man. Good to see you again.
Do me a quick favor and just share briefly kind of your background as it relates to being on camera, something that you're very, very good at, storytelling, and how that relates to the small business owner that's going, how and why should I even tell a story in the first place?
Trust. It's all about that. And I started out in Hollywood. Like you said, I started out acting. Hollywood is a rough place if you're not able to bend your morals. I was able to do well in acting. I did a lot of work in Hollywood. I was on TV shows. I have made a couple independent films. I've screen tested for huge movies. I had some big opportunities I had to turn down because I wouldn't do certain things that most people would find unbelievable, but maybe not anymore. What you hear about Hollywood, what you know about Hollywood now, all the stuff we hear coming out.
Yeah.
You kind of get it now, right? I think people get like, this is a really dark place, and you have to do a deal with the devil there if you want to have success. And it often comes in a beautiful way.
Of course.
It's not presented to you in an ugly, scary, fiery demon and brimstone hell. It's gorgeous. And it was presented to me, but I was always a good actor. Like I was decent at that. I was very creative. I bought into the roles. I liked the stories. I loved receiving scripts and reading the scripts. And I think I auditioned like 2,000 times in LA for major studios, major movies, and ended up meeting the wrong woman. And that's never good. I will say to entrepreneurs out there, who you pick to be with is going to dictate your success. It's a big deal.
Sure.
This person's either going to help you with your career and be supportive, or they're going to be somebody that may just drag you down. And that did happen to me. Didn't have a good relationship with someone, spent many years really unhappy. Like you said, had a big car crash in 2014, had addiction issues, and ended up going into recovery, finding God. That was an interesting moment for me. I say all of this because this leads to how you end up having success. I fought it. I fought turning my will and life over to the care of God as I understood him.
Sure.
In recovery. I just fought it. I just didn't want to do it. I thought I could control everything, and I couldn't. And it wasn't until one night I hit my knees and I was like, that's it. Like, I'm done. Whatever you want, God, just, I'm yours. Like, I remember in the car crash, I had not really injured anyone. I hadn't hurt anyone. And I was so fortunate because I should have killed someone. And the day that I had this issue where I hit my knees and I just sort of fell apart, I got a letter in the mail from the Superior Court in California, and it said, you've been charged with great bodily injury now. So my charges were increasing. And this happened, in my belief now, looking back, because I just wasn't willing to submit. And so I ended up hitting my knees. And then from there, it got better. From there, it was like, okay, I can't control everything. There are things that I can control, and I can move the needle, right, with those particular things. And that was the beginning of me learning where to focus my energy. Does that make sense?
It's interesting. It's sometimes the Lord works in mysterious ways, and sometimes it requires a car crash to kind of wake us up to where we're supposed to go. And if we accept that, if we hear that call, then we'll go in the right direction. If not, we might need another bump on the head. Figured out the first one.
I mean, I figured it out eventually. I started to get sober. I started to actually participate with the people in the group, and I recognized the people that were not willing to accept it. There's one guy, he leaned into me one night and he said, "This is BS. I'm never going to turn my will and life over to the care of God as I understand him. This is garbage. I'm not saying the serenity prayer. I'm not doing this crap." Well, the people that said that and were really repulsed by the idea of having to let go of control were the ones that failed the fastest. They were gone. Like, they would be back out, in trouble, in jail, all kinds of trouble. And so I noticed that pattern, and I started changing. And that's when I got out of recovery. I took action. I was broke, had no money. I mean, hardly a penny to my name. Coming off of a broken neck and going through a terrible divorce. My wife had had an affair at the time, and that's what caused all of this. Blindsided me with it, by the way.
Sure.
And so all that stuff was happening, and you know, I just pulled myself out and I said, I need to go do something with myself. So I started taking action. When I lost my driver's license for a year, which you do, I promised I wasn't going to break any rules. I was going to follow the law to the T. I'm not going to drive even 1 mile in this vehicle for the entire 365 days. So I started riding my bike all the way to Gold's Gym, from Seal Beach to Long Beach, every day, and I would work out for an hour and a half. I'd do this really early in the morning. And that's when I started to bodybuild. I started to get into bodybuilding. Pushing my body moved my mind. It gave me the ability to have some resilience. And then I decided I wanted to do personal training. And so I got my NASM certificate and I started training people. The idea came to me because of two women that were working in a restaurant in Seal Beach. I used to frequent this restaurant 2 years before my accident. And then right after my accident, when I looked terrible. And then I held off for about 6-7 months. And then I went back and I was just shredded, just ripped. And I was in shape and I had a beard. And I just looked like everything changed for me. I was just like this Viking dude. And they started asking me, what happened? Like, you don't even look like you. Like, you look like a totally different person. And they wanted me to train them. And that's kind of where I got the idea. Well, and I work out an hour and a half, 2 hours a day. Maybe I should start training people. And so I started doing that. And I ended up with a client list of like 50 people quickly.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So for the expert coach, course creator who's hearing this, I mean, I think it's important. You just shared your story or part of it. I know there's more to it. And I know that where you are today is light years away from where you used to be in such a great way, and how many people you're helping, and some of the insane results you've gotten for well-known companies. I won't mention names, but household names that you have gotten, I mean, in the billions of dollars results. So what I'm hearing from you is you're telling your story. You're a great storyteller, and the importance of, would you say that the importance of telling a story like this is to pull oneself out of a red ocean and put themselves into a blue ocean, as Russell Brunson has famously talked about, versus sounding like everybody else in their space, a me too, I do this too kind of a thing? Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, you have to be different. If you don't differentiate yourself, you're done. There's how many other businesses, millions of other businesses that look exactly like you, sound exactly like you. What makes you different? What makes you different is your passion. So I had passion for training. Like I was passionate and I had a niche. Like I was like this Viking savage and I would go hardcore on my lifting. And I was not sweet to these mainly women that I would train. And I would have no mercy. I didn't put up with I knew that their minds needed to change. It wasn't their bodies that needed to change. So the passion for the bodybuilding showed me how to unlock the potential to overcome adversity in my mind, working through that pain. And then I knew that when I started working with these people to help them lose 100 pounds, I wasn't wrestling with how to get them to train, how to get them to work out. I knew how to do that. I needed to know, how do I make their minds change? How do I show them, how to be accountable, right? When they're away from me. Yeah. And so a lot of it became about teaching them accountability, teaching them resilience. And so for entrepreneurs out there, when you're trying to sell, you have to differentiate your product in some way. You have to be different in some way. For me, it was more of a personal touch. I was really hard on the training, no mercy, but then able to communicate with them on an emotional level to help them get through the struggles that they needed to get through. I've had a woman that just sent me a message yesterday crying and saying that I had saved her life. And
really,
she couldn't be more grateful. And this was just through my recovery training, me talking with her and helping her. Sometimes I'll just reach out to people or they'll reach out to me and they'll say, I need help. I see you post a lot about sobriety. Can you help me? And I will have some calls with them and I'll be like, look, tell me what's going on, and do that research and then figure out how to help them. But branding is key. You have to figure out what's going to differentiate you. No question.
I think what I love about you, Matt, and when we've worked in the past together is your authenticity. It's funny, you come from a scripted background in Hollywood, but you're very unscripted when we speak, and very authentic. You're talking about things that are painful. It's funny, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking of some of my own journey, some of the on the floor, in tears, talking with my wife, what are we going to do next? I thought this was going to work. Things, honestly, I don't share a lot about at all with people, because as men, we're conditioned not to. I was, and what a wasted opportunity. And I think when it comes to differentiating, obviously, as a business owner, you've got to show people how they can get a result from whatever expertise you've got, et cetera. But wrapping that within the context of your story is what I think makes such the big difference. I mean, just you in general, what I've watched of you put out online, you're very unique. You're not like a vanilla, everybody else, me too, I do this as well, type of a creator. So I've appreciated that about you, and I think that's probably what you're wanting to drive home to these business owners, that like, look, you're going to look like everybody else unless you tell your real authentic story, so people can relate to that. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, 100%. Thanks. I appreciate all the kind comments. I believe wholeheartedly that you have to search within yourself the darkest parts. You got to go deep. And when you start to heal some of those traumatic events, some of those major issues that you've had in your life, and you're able to, be a man about it, get in there and do it, do the work.
Yeah.
You're able to help other people.
Yeah.
And you're able to see what your calling is. So we know, right, we're supposed to walk in a manner worthy of the calling with which we have been called. But that's really hard to do, isn't it? If we don't heal first, if we don't get to the core issues and work through those, we're not going to really know who we are And so we're not going to be able to be authentically unique if we don't know who we are and we're trying to mimic other people who've had success before.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. You try to mimic too much and you're going to end up looking just like them, and then you get lost in all the noise.
You will.
For the business owner who has a story, who knows their origin story, who is pretty clear about that and is making sales, they're selling their expertise online. Could it either be a course or some kind of a coaching program, maybe one-on-one or one-to-many? They're an expert in their field, but they really want to scale their business now. Maybe they've been doing things the traditional ways maybe they work for a company, but they've been doing things kind of what everybody else does. What are some solid tips that you could share for those people on scaling their business using content, using storytelling?
Oh, well, thought leadership is great to get out there. I mean, you're doing it right now. You started a podcast. You're getting your thought leadership out there. You're figuring out how to get your face out there and let people know that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what so many people miss. We waste our time. We really do. We waste a lot of time sitting behind a computer, sometimes creating a funnel. I'm guilty of this. Creating a funnel, creating copy.
Me too.
Creating email campaigns and doing automations that are never going to work. In fact, we sometimes create entire systems, and I'm guilty of this, based around a potential prospect that we think this is going to work. This is going to be a big sell. Okay. But we don't do the test first. Always test your market first. Now, you mentioned people that have already having success in scaling. I'm going to step back really quick and just telling people that haven't had the success yet. Test it, have conversations, make phone calls, talk to people that are in that field that you're trying to sell, and say, would this be of value to you?
Yeah.
And make sure you know you're fixing something for them that is a problem for them that will help them save time and save money. And then you start to build it. You don't build it first and take it out and see if it's going to work.
Right.
Okay. And I think a lot of people are guilty of that. You get caught up in the weeds, just building stuff that's, is never really going to come to fruition. And then you're like, I'll scrap that one. And failure is fine. Like, everybody has to fail to have success. You're not going to learn through your successes. You're going to learn through your failures. But for people that are already out there scaling and they're doing well and they want to make it a bigger deal, content, if you're not creating content, is going to give you much broader reach and much more trust and authenticity. So people that see your brand and they want to know more, the first thing they're going to do is find your social media. I mean, what do we do as people when we meet somebody new or we see someone in public, maybe that we do a business meeting, we're like, we're going to meet this person and we've never really looked at their socials before, or we just randomly meet somebody in a coffee shop or whatever and we're talking, we're like, yeah, nice to meet you, or the gym, and they have a company and you ask them about their company, you remember the name, you immediately go online and you start looking for their YouTube channel, their Instagram, their Facebook, their TikTok, their website. Here you are investigating them on the internet. So that is your calling card. What do you have out there that shows people exactly what you can do to help them, solve a problem? And so if you want to scale and you're not doing that, that's obviously something that is going to help you scale tremendously.
That's going to be a definite must. You're right. Yeah. I mean, I think our online presence is our online resume. It's what gives people a preview of what it would be like working with us, dealing with us. Do they want to deal with us? Are we a good fit? Are we a bad fit? I'm a big fan of repelling who's not a good fit and attracting who is. If you were to give me a couple of tips, like if I'm that coach, that course creator, that expert, and I'm looking to scale and I need some kind of a plan each week, I might have some clients and I might be caught in that sales fulfillment trap where I get some sales, but then I've got to stop doing my marketing, my content creation so I can fulfill. What are some practical tips, maybe even using AI, that would help to keep both going?
Yeah. Well, if you're not using AI right now, we can have that discussion. You're missing out. And that's for people who want to be employed in the workforce and don't want to be entrepreneurs. Like, if you want to be employed in the workforce in the future, you'd better know how to prompt generate. That is just a reality. It's happening. There's no question that that's going to be a reality. And for people that are business, small business owners and course creators and, marketers, and they own agencies, I would assume most of them are using AI to some degree. But you can take AI and you can create custom GPTs. You can take AI, you can go into ChatGPT, pay for a Plus account. Here's great advice. Pay for a Plus account.
Yeah.
Go to create a custom GPT. Mm-hmm. Create the GPT that you would benefit from most. What do you need? I need a GPT that can create copy that sounds like me and aligns with my brand.
Nice.
So you go in and you take your marketing materials, your documents, some of your samples of your writing, and you crunch it all into one PDF. You put it into one PDF. Don't put it into 5. It allows you to upload 10 documents. Don't do that. Put it all into one. Okay? There's a lot of glitches if you try to do multiple documents. And then it knows your style, and you tell it what you want to tell it. You say, this is how I write. This is my style. This is my business. This is my brand. You're going to be my copywriter. You're going to help me write emails, social media posts. You're going to help me write blog posts. You're going to help me write video scripts. You're going to do all of these things for me. And by the way, you can also include people like Russell Brunson, Alex Hormozi, people that you like. Okay, 𝘬𝘀𝘆𝘀𝗁. You can include all of those guys' samples of their writing in that document. And you can also include, say, Russell Brunson's perfect webinar framework. And then save it. And then when you use that GPT, you can say, help me create the perfect webinar. And it will prompt you to go through the questions that you need to answer in order to create that perfect webinar to start selling. And it will sound now like you versus just the regular, GPT use that would be just a generic, voice. It would be the AI voice. It's going to be now your voice.
Interesting.
Yeah. That I would highly recommend that.
Very cool. Yeah. You just dropped a lot of gold for those that who've been struggling as to how to get their message out, what message to get out, what frameworks work, have been battle tested and made millions, if not billions. What Matt is sharing is exactly it. He's giving you the prompt to put into ChatGPT, which became, I believe, mainstream in November of 2023. And it's becoming mainstream. I think there's still a lot of people that don't know about it, or if they do, they're unsure, they're scared or whatever. But what he's just said is gold. Make sure to go back and rewind and listen to that, because he's dropping names of people who have already been successful online, like crazy successful. And the frameworks that they've used to generate that success, you can then adopt that and adapt that into your own voice and produce your own content. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, that's what you want to do. And then record. Like, you always want to be on audio, like recording audio constantly. Like, you want to learn to communicate with the GPT. Learn how to prompt, learn how to say, I want you to become my copywriter for the day. I'm looking to create custom emails to automate to people who sign up for my Inc. Your Path membership and newsletter. This is going to help them do, XYZ, whatever it's going to help them do. And then you say, now let's come up with 10 topics. And then it'll give you 10 topics. And then we'll say down below that, let's start with number 1 and let's fine tune that all the way through until we have it done before we move on to the next. So you tell it what you want it to do. So you're kind of like, you're ordering it, like a robot to do what you want it to do. You have to control that conversation.
I love it. Matt, for those that are listening that would like to learn more about the projects that you've got going on, who you serve, how you help them, maybe some of your podcasts, your channels, how do they follow you? How do they find you? How do they get in touch?
Oh, well, I have such an eclectic background. It's interesting. I'm actually the director of the digital experience at Transamerica. So I have like a huge corporate job, but I'm always working. So I'm an entrepreneur as well. And I love
Yeah.
creating companies. And I have
Yep.
everything that I do, including my podcast, which is called Unfiltered with Matt Farnsworth, on my website. So mattfarnsworth.net. It used to be mattfarnsworth.com until I let that go about 20 years ago, and somebody picked it up, and I haven't been able to get that back from that guy ever since. Maybe I check it every year, and it's like, nope, still registered. He renewed it for 2 years. Doesn't matter anymore. It's good stuff. The content there is interesting. The Unfiltered podcast has a variety of content. It's
Like what? Like, give me some topics that people would resonate with.
relationships. If you want to, save your marriage, here's great ways to do that. If you want to quit drinking, here's great ways to do that. Don't be average. Okay, here's a way not to be average. If you want to scale your business, here's a good way to scale your business. I talk to, moguls who run, online companies, and I also talk to people who are in the political world that are right now fighting for women's rights in sports. It's really a myriad, almost like a Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Like I talk to everybody. I really want to know about people who have oftentimes come from adversity or had a fall from grace and have somehow managed to come back and are fighting for good.